Please extend a warm Rotary welcome to Mayor David Berger.
Well, good afternoon. It's great to be here with all of you. I think I can explain why Mike is not here. Mike was a senior when I was a freshman in high school, and he was a senior when I was a freshman in college. We went to the same school together. And so he knew just how boring this was going to be. So he bolted rather than be here. And then, Bob, your story I have to challenge. I've never actually interacted with a police officer that way. However, there have been multiple occasions when I have had occasion to interact with a police officer. Not for rolling through stop signs, but I do on occasion have a heavy foot. And often the children and my wife have been in the car, and that becomes occasion for 6 months of abuse thereafter. I should also mention, this was a long time ago, actually right after I had moved to Lima in July of 1977. My brother was a senior at Ohio State University, and he invited me down to go to the Purdue game. And that was a year in which Ohio State was just literally killing the opposition. It was 60-0 in the third quarter, and we were bored. So we got up and we walked out, and we're heading across High Street, and we were the last in a group of folks crossing with the light. And as we got to the middle of the intersection, there was a whistle, and not understanding who it was for, we continued to proceed across to the other side. By the time we got to the other side, a police officer grabbed both of us by the neck, took us back across the street. All the traffic was halted, threw us on top of the cars and cuffed us, and took us downtown. My salary at that time was $9,500 a year, and that cost me $60 for jaywalking. So I've never gone back to Ohio State for a football game. But it is good to be here. It's good to come clean about my interactions with the police. But I want to take this opportunity to follow up on Commissioner Begg's presentation last week. He did a great job, and because his slides were just terrific, I decided I couldn't compete with that message and that format, so I'm just going to talk to you for a few minutes. And I'd like to talk to you about the safety of our community, about the finances of the city, and also about a number of projects that we have underway. As Dave mentioned, last year was an election year for me, and we were literally days from the first of the forums that took place last year for the mayor's race. And I happened to mention in a staff meeting that I needed some talking points from the staff, and I asked the chief to get me some current data, the chief of police. And I had not, prior to that, paid any attention to what the data said. And the next day he sends me a note, and he said, I'm sorry I'm late on getting this to you. I'm putting together some slides. I said, Chief, I don't need slides. I just need a couple of data points. Well, the next day he sent me the slides, and my jaw literally was on the ground because I had lost track, hadn't really been focused on the data. The overall crime rate for our community from 2013 to comparison to 2012 was down nearly 10%. And over the last 6 years, it's down nearly 30%. That kind of trend and that kind of impact in our community truly ought to be headlines and ought to be celebrated. It's the kind of thing that if it had gone the other way, we'd certainly be hearing about it from everybody. Instead, here is something that I personally lost track of, and I think our community has truly not focused on in the way that it ought to. Violent offenses, in fact, are even more dramatically down. Last year saw a nearly 22% reduction in a single year. And over the past 6 years, violent offenses are down nearly 27%. Now, this is the result of lots of people working very hard on partnerships. Partnership of the Sheriff's Department with the Lima Police Department and all the other law enforcement agencies in our community. And it really is about doing the job in an effective way on the street and organizationally in a way that matters. I think the change, certainly by comparison to what had been going on and trumpeted for 16 years previous to that, really needs to be called to everyone's attention in a way that's unmistakable. Anybody that wants to tell you that crime in our community is trending up is wrong. The safety of our community, in fact, is improving, and it's improving throughout our community, in every neighborhood. Now, that does not mean there still aren't problems. And just a couple of weeks ago, the Attorney General was here to announce that there's a new partnership in our community, which is what they're calling a call-in process. And for the last couple of months, the Lima Police Department was asked to identify those persons who, in fact, are the most violent in our community. And they identified 11 individuals who were called in by their probation officers and who had an hour-long meeting with some very important people in our community. People that included the chief, the representatives of the prosecutor's office, both locally and the federal prosecutor, clergy, social service, and others. And the message was, we know who you are, we know where you live, and we know your families. If you don't straighten up, you're going to jail. You're not going to be just prosecuted under the laws of the city or the state. You will be taken federally. And once you're found guilty, you will not be housed in one of Ohio's penitentiary or the Allen County Jail. You will be housed in Maine or Leavenworth or someplace so far away that your families truly will not have an opportunity to see you. Or you can straighten up. And we have all of these opportunities for you to go right, to in fact do something with your lives. That interaction was, I think, a powerful experience for a number of folks. And it's going to continue. Every couple of months, there will be another group of folks called in for just that kind of meeting. I have to say, I applaud the Attorney General for initiating this. We're the third city in Ohio where it is taking place. I think it's exactly the kind of interaction that needs to happen in order to change lives and in order to improve the overall quality of life in communities like Lima. Relative to the city's finances, I can say that in an era of vast instability in local government finances throughout Ohio and many other states, the City of Lima's finances are stable and strong. Our spending over the past 6 years is flat, and through tight controls, particularly on hiring, we have been able to improve our cash carryover at the end of the year to almost $9 million. That is 30% of the general fund, which is nearly double what the national average is for cities throughout America. We intend to continue to place rigorous kinds of analyses on all of our spending, just as we've been doing, in order to continue that kind of stability. At the same time, we need to do some additional capital spending. Things break, things wear out, and so we'll continue to replace rolling stock. We have some projects this year that we must do, and we'll be issuing some debt in order to be able to accomplish that. My one comment about the city's finances is that I really want to emphasize that the instability that characterizes local government's finances throughout the state is not due to the actions or inactions of local governments. It's not due to the actions of county commissioners, it's not due to the actions of township trustees, nor mayors or city councils or village councils. It is in fact due to decisions that continue to be made by the state legislature and the governor. Those actions continue to remove resources from local governments. Those actions for the city of Lima, which took away estate taxes, which took away tangible personal property taxes, and which have reduced local government funds, have now cost us $3 million each and every year. Every year. Out of a general fund this year that will be around $28 million. That's a huge number. That kind of assault on local government finances is continuing as this discussion proceeds for what they call uniformity for the city income taxes. Uniformity is being pursued at the expenses of cities. In addition, there now is discussion about a way of approaching the oil and gas revenue stream, which will further erode city finances and local government funds. So when you talk with our representatives, Mr. Huffman and Mr. Faber and others, including the cabinet members that will be coming here, that was mentioned earlier, please tell them to stop. Local governments need resources in order to be able to operate and maintain a quality of life that we all expect and demand. And with the state continuing to roll back our resources, that is eroding and will continue to erode the opportunities that cities, villages, townships, and counties have to maintain the kinds of programs, to maintain the capital infrastructure that we have, the assets that we have built up over time, and that we need to maintain. Relative to capital projects and other things that we're undertaking, in 2013 and for a year or so prior to that, the city was able to accomplish something that we had not been able to address in any significant way previously. At one point, we estimated that we had 1,300 to 1,400 abandoned houses in the city. At a cost of $500 to $7,500 per demolition, the cost to approach that in any significant way was simply outside our means. The city normally would have resources to be able to take down somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 houses in a year's time. Over the last several years, however, with the help of a federal NSP, Neighborhood Support grant, and money through the Attorney General's office, total of $2.3 million, we were able to complete over 300 demolitions of long abandoned houses in our community. We still have 1,000 to go. So if anybody wants to write a check for about $5 million, we'll try to get the rest of them down as well. Bottom line is, you can imagine if you're a neighbor in a neighborhood where a property has stood for 15 or 20 years, abandoned and boarded up, just how discouraged you would be if nothing was able to be done about that. So the opportunity to be able to take down 300 houses and clear the lot was really significant, not just for the city to be able to say it's been done, but for the neighbors of that property who now no longer have to deal with the problem that it represented for them, their families, and the quality of life that they live. This past year as well, we undertook a major infrastructure and improvement which is designed to make entry into our city a more beautiful experience. We are now completing a $1.7 million lighting improvement that stretches from the east side of town all the way to Woodlawn Avenue. We are hopeful that we're going to be able to put funding together to continue that lighting from Woodlawn out to the west side of town, and are hopeful of being able to install, if you've seen the light fixtures on the Bell Fountain Bridge, which is a single pole with a double-headed fixture. That's the same fixture that we'd like to install along the Market Street Boulevard. So you'd be able to travel literally from the east side to the west side with the decorative lighting. We have continued on a variety of other improvements this past year with the municipal parking lot renovation, which incorporated some state-of-the-art improvements involving stormwater retention. We have a major rebuild of the main interceptor sewer that from the Baxter Street lift station out to the main treatment plant for $2.6 million, and we're expecting this year to undertake major rebuilds of our sanitary lift stations, which will cost about $4.5 million. These two pieces are part of a 5-year, $25 million mandated set of improvements that we're being required by both the state and federal government to undertake. This year as well, we are undertaking a postponed project from last year, which is the rebuild of West and Elizabeth Streets. Last year it came in 30% over our bid. This year, as we've rebid it, it came in right on the engineer's estimate of $1.3 million, and you'll see that work get underway here as the weather breaks. One of the major projects that will take place this year, that planning took place all of last year, is for a renovation of the space where the city jail used to be located. As you may recall, we were doing a renovation of the Cambridge building, which included our IT facilities. And as we got into that, our contractor approached us and informed us that work on that particular space could jeopardize our computer systems. Well, if we actually contemplated ever operating without our computer systems, 40-some servers, we would be shut down and flat on our back for a long time. And for the last several years, we've actually been dinged by the state auditor for what's called a business continuity plan, which is essentially thinking about Joplin, Missouri, and being hit by a mile-wide tornado. And how do you bring everything back up in a reasonable amount of time? Well, we have all of our computers in one confined space with no backup to that, not for data, but for systems. And so what we're now doing is creating that space in a portion of the once city jail. And in addition, the balance of that space will be renovated for the Detective Bureau and for long-term storage of evidence. Ohio law now requires certain types of crime, the evidence related to that crime has to be maintained forever. We have no space that can accomplish that, so we will be incorporating that in this year's project. Another project that will be emerging, there'll be a public hearing next week about our rebuild of Kibbe Street from the east side into Pine. That public hearing will take place at Freedom Elementary School on Thursday evening. And we are proceeding with engineering on the east side grade separation, and if possible, if we're able to put our hands on some additional dollars, we'll also be proceeding with right-of-way acquisition for that project as well. There are several other special initiatives that I'll just call to your attention. About a week ago, in conjunction with a number of community organizations, the Chamber, AEDG, the county, the city, partnered with AEP for an initiative called the Energy Savers 2014 program. Everybody in this room can participate. Everybody in this room, whether you're an individual or the businesses that you represent, can in fact take advantage of a number of conservation initiatives that American Electric Power is rolling out. And I really want to encourage you to do this, both for your purposes and also for community purposes. If you're a resident of the city, if your business is in the city will get credit, and that credit will be a point. We have to get to 750 points in order to be able to meet the challenge which AEP has laid out for us. And once we meet the challenge, we will then receive a grant from AEP for $140,000. And that will be used to relight Simmons Field for the locos. So we were scratching our heads. The locos were coming to us saying, you know, we're not going to be able to stay at Simmons Field. We're not measuring up. We'll have to look at other places to go if we don't get some things fixed. The opportunity associated with AEP's program gave us exactly what we needed at exactly the right time. An initiative where we can help ourselves as individuals, our homes, our businesses, but also help the community at the same time. So I want to encourage you all to go to EnergySavers2014.com and check out all of the opportunities that are there. There's everything from having somebody to come, you can fill out a survey, you can have somebody come to your home and do an energy audit. You can also have engineers come and assist you at your business to assess a variety of energy saving options. If you've got an old refrigerator in your basement and you want to not give it to Jeff Tracy when you do the next exchange, AEP will actually pay you $50 and they'll haul the old refrigerator or freezer out for you. So it's a great way to get some stuff done at home, but also help our community. Another important initiative this year, as it has been for the last year or so, is Activate Allen County. This initiative on the part of our entire county is really trying to take seriously the prospect, the current reality and the future prospect arising from obesity and unhealthy lifestyles throughout our community. A set of challenges that I believe we can tackle because we have lots of creative people here and throughout our community, but it's also a set of challenges that I don't think we've taken seriously enough. As we look at this as employers, we need to understand that this is fundamentally about workforce. This is about whether or not kids that are 8, 9, 10 years old now and who have type 2 diabetes, not juvenile diabetes, type 2 full onset diabetes, whether they are going to be able to have their limbs, whether they will have sight when they're 40 years old. At the height of what ought to be their work lives, will they be available to us as other than disabled individuals? This is truly about workforce, and it's about the long-term prosperity of our community and lots of communities in Ohio. Allen County is 82nd out of 88 counties. How much worse do we have to get before we ultimately decide we have to do something? This is real, and it's here, and it's now. And we need to be thinking seriously about what we do as individuals, what we do in our homes, what we do in our organizations, what we do in our places of employment to make an improvement. I have a lot of other things here, but there's 5 minutes to go. So I'm going to stop just with the comment that I believe that in 2013 we had a really solid year. And I think a surprisingly solid year by comparison with many other communities in Ohio. And I believe that in 2014 we're going to have an even better year. When you look at the investments being made in our community by businesses large and small, when you look at the investments being made in our downtown and throughout our metropolitan area, people are in fact spending money, businesses are growing, and I believe that one of the biggest challenges we will have is matching people up for the employment opportunities that are now going to be resulting from those investments. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. Butch. The question was the status of the Research Training Center on South Main Street. If you've driven by there anytime recently, you've seen construction taking place. This is right at the corner of Main and 4th. This is a building being built by the Ohio Energy and Advanced Manufacturing Center, and it should be done by the end of the summer. It will provide 20,000 square feet for R&D related activities. Specifically, at this point, we are focused on how to roll out the technologies associated with what's called high strain rate metal forming or electromagnetic forming. At the Chamber's breakfast a week ago, Steve Hatkovic from American Trim talked about this a little bit. We believe that the opportunity is there now to begin to actually roll that technology out to other metal bending businesses in our region, and there is work being done now to envision and ultimately create a network of businesses that will begin to use that technology. So we see that center actually focusing as it becomes operational on how to get that technology out of not just out of laboratory space, but into production systems with businesses in our region. Jeff. Entirely supportive of internet sales tax being put in place. Never have. I mean, it's stalled in Congress. In fact, I was on a flight with Mike Free and Nate Gass last year going to Washington. They were heading there to actually go knock on doors on that issue, and the Conference of Mayors does have policy that supports. I mean, we see it essentially as leveling the playing field between online businesses and storefronts, and it needs to happen, and it can happen. Anybody that tells you the technology is not there to do this is lying to you. Other questions? Got any other questions? Well, thank you all. Appreciate being here.